Hello folks, Ferengi on board here again with another video. This time I thought about meditation, which is something that I see most people nowadays tend towards. However, there are very few sources that actually present the problems of meditation. Now, honestly, what is meditation and what problems it could come up with? Because most people are not necessarily aware of the such, but also they can't actually accept that there is something wrong with meditation. Now, why does the last premise actually trigger? Well, it triggers because some people find a refuge in this, so automatically they will try to do everything to preserve that idea, just like people who lie will always fight for their lives. In this case, those people actually use meditation as a way of running away from their problems, and this is something that I call using things as drugs. Because in order to, instead of helping you develop, they actually help you, um, like stay low and stay distracted. But distractions are only the luxury of the poor, the people who think in lack and scarcity. And more so than that, it will not simply solve your problems. To move even forwards, the idea of meditation is a very simple concept. However, it goes and can go very deep depending on how introspective a person generally is. I know in my case that I am quite introspective. Now, meditation means opening yourself up to your inner voices, to your inner thoughts, to your inner aspects, and trying at least to become one and the same with the universe. I'm not saying this process will be an instant. This usually can take even lifetimes to fully achieve, and it is a process that also can fuck your mind up. Now, how exactly can someone fuck up their minds through meditation? Well, there are a few ways, and well, it's preferable not to do those. However, with these is more like dealing with black holes. So everyone probably knows that if you cross the event horizon of a black hole, well, it's kind of the point of no return. So basically there's no coming back. However, there is no border, there is no sign that says you are going beyond the event horizon here. Okay? And that's also something that changes, is not something fixed. And also black holes are moving, so yeah, okay. Like they also whirl around the center of the gravity of, well, the center of the galaxy, due to the usual fact that galaxies have a supermassive black hole and everything seems to whirl around them. Now, meditation is a very way to get to become very profound, to open up to yourself, to find very many ideas that you would normally think you wouldn't be capable of, or you wouldn't be knowledgeable or capable of unleashing. Meditation is very good throughout the day. However, there are two main important times in the day when you can use meditation to simply improve yourself. Meditation is not something that you have to do for hours. That is, if you choose to do so, then fine by it. But meditation is something that, like anything else in life, it has to start with small steps. When you start with small steps, it's a very good point that you can at least start meditating for, say, at least half a minute. When you meditate for like half a minute, it's then that you become better and better at this. Now, how do you meditate? Most people ruin their minds and fuck themselves up through one simple point. There is this common belief that when you meditate, you have to be fully tranquil and you have to think at nothing. Okay? And well, the point is that this is kind of impossible. And one way I explain this is by the fact that you cannot simply turn off your mind. Okay? When you become meditative, okay, you open yourself up and your mind declutters. You see, one of the reasons, the main reason why you simply cannot focus on things is that you're doing too many things at the same time and you're focusing on too many things at a time. And when you're feeding your stomach a lot of different things at the same time, you might actually end up with a stomachache, right? Or a headache in some other cases. Now, what happens is that this is the same for your mind. If you feed all sorts of stuff in your mind, it's like if your mind is like a blender and you put all sorts of stuff into it, it simply will try to work on whatever you give, but don't wonder if you can't simply find any focus or any results. The way you get focus is based on the number of neurons that you are allocating towards each process. So the more you are thinking towards a process, the more neurons you allocate towards it. For example, in video games, okay, many people might have very good natural reflexes, okay, they can react very fast to different situations. However, there is something that I call as specific reflexes. If you start up a new game that you haven't played, you won't have any reflexes, even if your reflex pace is very fast, is very good, but you still need to build up the local reflexes, right? The specific reflexes for that game, and that is done by practicing the game and also through allocation of neurons towards that. So a few months later you will see that you will react very, very fast. Now it also depends on how fast your reflexes are at the core of your being. The same is with life. The more you focus on things, the more neurons will be allocated towards that, and therefore you will create more links, more stable links with the universe, so that you are provided ideas. If you keep thinking about all sorts of stuff, well, let me tell you a quote from Bruce Lee. He said, "I will never fear the person who has done, or let's say who has repeated 1,000 moves or 10,000 moves one time, but I will fear the person who has repeated one single move 10,000 times instead." Well, it's not the exact quote, but it's something like that. So don't fear people who have tried 10,000 things, which most people actually do in their life, and they try them once or twice because there's this idea that if you fail, it's game over. But do take into account those people who, have definitely tried something 10,000 times and actually have the proof for it, okay? Like in video games, such ideas can be misleading, because say you see a person in a MOBA that has, let's say, level 300 on a certain character. They must definitely be good, right? But what if there's a friend playing on that account? What if that player recently sold their account and someone recently bought it, right? So you don't have a 100% thing. But when you have someone that has, for example, thousands of videos on YouTube, they have millions of subscribers, and they keep pumping up information and wisdom about their own field, and they also present 10 years of experience into that field. Well, that can as well be like, you may not be 100% sure of it, but you see the statistics actually show it, okay? Like if you still don't try it and believe in that person, there's either something wrong with that person or there's something wrong with you, and you might have, for example, trust issues. Now let's go back to meditation, shall we? So with meditation, the more you focus on certain things, you will see that you will have more results, and you will actually distract yourself less, because you're building more and more neural links, right, pathways towards the things that you want to focus on more, okay? So you'd want to focus a bit on some of the things that you don't like, at least for the moment, like for example your job or living with toxic people, because in order to move away from them you will have to do some work, you'll have to gain some skills. So what is the skill that you need, right? What is the revenue that you require to actually move away from your current situation? right? And live the life that you would like to dream towards. And more importantly, are you actually willing to do that? Now, since we are born, we are uh, hushed, right? We are silenced by our parents, by relatives, because many cases they simply cannot allow other people to say things other than the things they themselves allow to come into their life, right? Most people simply cannot accept many things and they will keep just to their own. So we also put ourselves down and silence our inner voice. And when we start meditating, some people end up saying that, you see, it is not working in my case. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And it doesn't work because you are silencing your inner voice every time it wants to say something. You are like, nah, I know it better. You see, I'm sure about my results. I know better. What do you know, right? All these kind of quotes that our parents and relatives and even some of our close friends actually tell us. And what this goes to show is one thing. Well, fact to be said, you're actually silencing your voice because you're ceding your power. You're giving your attention towards other people. And when you give attention to other people, you also give it when you think of them, even when they aren't close. So the way vampires actually feed from you is even, they implant some viruses within you, some mind viruses, and those actually work. And the way they work is they simply function in the background of your mind. They keep reminding you of that person and what those things did. And the presence of those viruses actually allows entities to come into your mind and even attack you at times. So your thoughts can be an invitation. I've learned this in Reiki level 3, Reiki level 2 Karuna, if I remember correctly, that the source of any attack is within you. So as long as you have toxic thoughts or whatever that allows a breach into your shields, well then, any attack can occur. It doesn't matter how many diamonds you buy, how much gold you put around you, how many affirmations you create, right? It's like with the church and with religion. Many people say that in Christianity, for example, the priests wear a robe that has gold on it because that gold is a natural protector against negative attacks. Actually attacks. I don't know if there is something like a positive attack anyways. But the thing is, if that priest is corrupted and let's say they are lusty, they have a lot of negatives, even one is enough. They have this dependency, they are either lusty, they go homosexual or whatever such thing, that is an opening. It doesn't matter how many incantations they speak. And in some cases around me, I just end up with this feeling that churches actually have more demons in them than outside, because there are so many people coming there, and many of those people are actually fake. They just come there so that their neighbors see them, right? And through meditation, one mistake that people do is that they call entities, they call the universe, they call Jesus. And the problem is that most people don't know that there are actually two Jesus Christ. There is a fallen angel named Jesus Emmanuel, and I think it has another name. And guess what? Divinity will never lower itself to you. You have to increase your vibration to reach it, and that's the purpose of meditation. However, when you invoke beings, it's just like summoning the spirits of the dead. You summon those, but the problem is that they will actually come. And guess who will come in between the real Jesus Christ and the fallen angel? And you probably have guessed it right, the fallen angel will come. And it has a very powerful aura. It warps people's minds. It gives them the impression that they are enlightened, they are loved and protected. But it's only a few tricks that it deploys, right? And its tricks only work on you if you allow it. right? If you keep welcoming it. So the reason why I never open up to meditation is I'm not yet knowledgeable of the beings that I might welcome into my life, and you never know what kind of parasitic entities you will welcome into your field, even unconsciously. And that entity can actually, in time, gain control over you. Some people have done this, and their friends could simply not explain, like logically it is unexplainable, but the mind is very feeble. It cannot explain everything through logics, and it more so than that, it can explain many things, but it simply won't want, because usually and most of the time our minds are infected by entities, right? And these entities will do everything possible to convince you that certain things don't exist, so that you don't look them up, you don't search and become knowledgeable of those things. It's the same thing with computer viruses. They camouflage themselves. They fool the system that it is actually working correctly. It's the same thing with biological viruses. They use all sorts of tricks, like they replicate the code that cells have, and therefore they appear as if they are friendly, and all sorts of other biochemical tricks that they deploy. And meditation is a very powerful technique to use, but at least try to use it only for affirmations at the beginning, and use it at the beginning of the day in the morning. Now at 4 a.m. it's a very good time to start using meditation. If you cannot wake up at that time, well, it's no problem. When you wake up, for a while, usually like 30 minutes at least, your mind is very receptive. So what you do in that period of time will actually reflect on your day-to-day life, and at least on that day. So if you begin your day feeling grumpy, and you also amplify that in the first half an hour, or let's say an hour after you wake up, that's a problem, because it will affect your whole day. The way you start your morning, the way you start your day, it's how it most likely will end. The reason why I'm saying this is that high achievers, the people who are very successful in life, they all, or many of them, wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, or very early in the morning, when most of the other people actually still sleep, and they do their early meditation. They do their early affirmations, because they have reached a state, they have reached a level when they would simply not want to, miss their affirmations right in the morning. Like, they would rather not have breakfast in the morning and have their affirmations, because they are hungry for success. They're not necessarily hungry for their breakfast. If they have their affirmations and they start doing their work, they start doing things that they actually want, breakfast to them is just a commodity. It's just something they can skip. And that's the way high achievers work. I doubt many of them actually, like meditate in the sense of, they ask the help of high entities and the such. Like, when you're doing things that you want, and you're 100% or the most authentic towards yourself that you can, you actually don't need to summon entities by your side, because that link already exists. I was speaking with someone today, and I told them, they actually asked me if I meditate or how long have I been meditating, and she was a bit surprised when I told her that, hey, you see, I actually don't feel the urge to meditate, okay? Because ever since I was young, I knew that there are some links, and I've become more and more knowledgeable in life to the fact, or of the fact, that those links actually exist. I have those links with my spiritual guides, and whatever entities that support me, and also with the universe. And I see it in the repetitive numbers, in the sequences, right, in synchronicities, and in angel numbers, and whatever other points. You see, I see a lot of fours, which means that I have a powerful connection with angels and with other entities that are willing to support me. And that is why I just don't feel the urge to meditate. When I am thinking of things, just ideas pop up. And the more advanced and introspective you become, the more you realize that those thoughts actually come from somewhere. There are forces that actually give you these thoughts, and they give these ideas into your mind, right, in a very detached way. And the way they do this is they simply don't find an attachment towards those ideas, okay? We in this 3D world end up believing that, hey, this idea is mine, I have such a wonderful idea, and this is great because it actually helps you, okay? Like in the end, it's still an idea, right? Like those entities plant you the idea, right? And your mind instantly sprouts it, right? So it's basically your idea, even if, you know, it was planted by some detached forces that simply do not judge, and it is irrelevant to them if you acknowledge that idea as coming from somewhere else or you acknowledge it as the idea being your own. So the principle that I'm speaking about in meditation is don't open yourself up too much. Try to learn about how the chakras work. You might definitely not, you definitely will not want a accidental chakra opening, because chakras, for example, and there are a lot of them, not necessarily the 7 main ones, and these chakras actually are portals to other dimensions. And I've actually felt and seen different types of entities around me, even at, you know, like almost intimate distance away from me. And all I can say is that it's very, very strange. And the reason is you don't want an accidental chakra opening, because let's say that in the darkness of that dimension you suddenly become a lighthouse, and that is an invitation. You don't know what entities you will draw inside, and the moment you feel something strange, you'll most likely feel afraid, and that moment when you feel afraid, even if it is a split second, it is enough for any entity of that vibration to actually creep in. So let's say you have, you know, an accidental Manipura opening, which is the 3rd chakra, the chakra of your personal power, right? But you get a bit afraid or confused by something. You have a real small tingling, right? An entity tried to draw your attention from a higher vibration, but you suddenly got a bit afraid and your vibration suddenly dropped. So actually an entity can creep into your auric field, and it will be from the lower vibration of that chakra, which means domineering, right? Or lack of self-confidence, right? And it will start amplifying the things that correlate with that vibration. For example, the programming that you're not good enough, that whatever you want to do sucks and is bad and you won't succeed, and, you know, poor self-esteem things. Because a parasitic entity is always will always blow its cover, because it will terraform you. It will try to change you in a way that adapts itself, right? And you know, it's like in programming there is this idea called design patterns. These are, let's say, bunch of codes of different types, right? And they serve a certain purpose. And the thing is that there are around 23 in Java and C#, for example, but the point is that not many people learn all of them. In fact, people will most likely use 2 or 3 or 4 or let's say 5 of those, which are most likely the most commonly used. But some people actually end up with the idea of, you know, adapting their own problem to the design pattern. No, you just put the problem in code in the right way. If you can use a design pattern to, you know, ease your work, then use it. Don't adapt the problem to that situation, right? That's how entities actually work. They adapt to you, they adapt to your environment, and they use whatever they can from your environment to actually bolster their existence. Are you scattered? Well, it's a sign that a parasitic entity wants that, because it cannot live in a very tidy mind, right? And, well, you know, are you splintered in your thoughts? Are you thinking of constant things, switching from one thing to another? Well, you probably have an attachment and these attachments have implants that they put inside of you, inside of your fields, and one of these attachments is usually put around the temples of your head, and when that happens, those entities make you talk a lot, and you talk with yourself a lot, and you constantly distract yourself because distraction will actually feed them, and that's what they want. Parasitic entities can't gain energy, so they need people or any source to feed them energy, because we living beings are capable of having unlimited supplies of energy. Well, almost unlimited, let's say. So what I'm saying about meditation is not that it's bad, but avoid opening yourself to unnecessary things. Use meditation for self-introspection, and try to communicate with your inner voice first. And your inner voice will most likely test you. That is why your mind will at times be very, very taciturn, right? It will be very silent, because you have silenced your mind, you have silenced your inner voice so many times when it actually wanted to help you, so that now it's actually testing you. And it says, you've been silencing me when I wanted to help you. What makes you think that I want to help you now? And it's actually going to reply to you. It always does, but you also have to give it some trust. It trusted you that you would listen, but through programming and hatred and poor self-esteem, you wouldn't listen to it, right? So it also tests you. So the point of meditation is to try to find your inner voices, and you will know that they are your inner voices and not some parasitic entities, because you will start feeling the vibrations. If they don't distract you, then it's most likely your inner voices. If they don't come up with unpleasant emotions, it's definitely not a parasitic entity. Now, I'm making this video a bit too long, I think, so the point of meditation is use it for the smallest things possible, okay? I've learned today a principle called minimalistic views. So if you have a big goal, set at least a very, very small goal per day that will help you achieve that big goal. So you want to meditate like the gurus, at least try to meditate for half a minute at first. Then try for 3 minutes, then try for X minutes, and see how much you can go. And most preferably start at the times that would be most convenient to you, and some of these would be before you go to bed, because this way you focus on the things that you want solved for tomorrow, and you implant those ideas into your subconscious mind, so your subconscious mind will actually start and will keep creating connections and finding out solutions for the problems that you have, so that the next day you find it much easier to actually come up with a solution. I've used this technique more or less directly, and it works. And it will definitely work in your case. And in the morning, it's kind of the same thing, because the things you will focus on your morning will represent your ideas, will shape you, and will also shape your day, because the way you shape your perspectives, that way you shape your reality. So remember, people who are very negativistic, they wake up, they start bitching and complaining, so they shape their reality in a very bad way, so most likely their day will actually be bad, right? These being said, I will also make other videos about meditation, so stay tuned. I will try to post as frequent as possible, like at least once a day. If I cannot post in a few days, then I will try to catch up, because I'm interested in sharing my wisdom. So if you are new to my channel, feel free to subscribe if you want, and feel free to listen more and tune in more to the knowledge that I'm going to share. I'm learning from my mentors, and my purpose is that when I be on my deathbed, I simply just wish that none of my wisdom remained unshared. Have a nice day. Namaste. Ferenc Can Board signing out.